this discussion is held by the Palestinian Academic Initiative, which was recently launched in Gaza to contribute to efforts to rebuilding the Gaza Strip in general, but specifically rebuilding cultural, academic, and educational institutes that were destroyed by Israel. About 500 schools were destroyed by Israel, and I'm talking about primary schools, preparatory schools, high schools, but also 7 out of the 8 major universities in Gaza were completely flattened to the ground intentionally by Israel. So we're talking about uh, ecocide, as Dr. Ibrahim Rabaya will explain now, and we'll go to him for 5 minutes. He will present a paper he published on the topic.
Yeah. Thank you, Yusuf. Again, it's my pleasure of being here, and I'm happy to meet my friend Ibrahim. We were colleagues in UM University when we were met from maybe 5 years or 6 years. So it's a good opportunity. I hope we'll meet in Gaza soon. I think the main idea here that there was a concern for us as Palestinians of the systematic targeting for universities mainly in Gaza and West Bank since maybe 2000, since the second Intifada. This targeting because the universities were and still the hub of building maybe national identity here in Palestine. Um, so there was a de-development period for universities and higher education in Gaza. This period was the blockade period, 2007 to 2023. And then we moved to the ecocide. The ecocide is not exclusively related to the Palestinian case. It was before in the Iraqi case, 2003 and beyond. There was a systematic targeting for intellectuals, professors, academics, and building like an environment which is not proper for staying here. So there is a drain for intellectuals from the country in Iraq. And also there is a destruction for the infrastructure. This infrastructure includes the buildings, includes the laboratories, includes also preventing bringing any related equipment from outside. So this sector collapse, and then we build it again on new conditions and new determinants, which is not related to Palestinian, to the Iraqi context. Before this was in Iraq. The same in Palestine. Now me and my colleague, Dr. Lordis Habash, she's the Dean of Faculty of Law and Public Administration, Birzeit University, work on comparison study. This is our recent paper. It will be published soon. The case here in Palestine that the systematic targeting started from uh, 2008 war. There was a narrative related to some universities that these universities are hubs for terrorism. And this narrative accumulated and developed later. For example, the losses of 2014 war in Gaza universities was more than $30 million. And the problem that there is no activity, there is no possibility for recovery. And now the essential estimations for some universities like Al-Azhar, we are talking about $221 million. So when we talk about like the GDP of Palestine was before the war like 15 billion. So the losses of this sector at least will exceed 1.5 billion. So you can imagine the share of GDP in Palestine. So this is horrible, and we are talking about human losses in human capital. Until now, we are talking about 110 academic staff killed. we are talking, this is the register, this is what we know, because there's many people are not registered in this. We are talking a full destruction for at least 3 universities. We are talking about 92 buildings of universities fully destroyed. We are talking between partial to full destruction for all universities, academic institutions in Gaza, 28 academic institutions for higher education, including the UN protected institutions, UNRWA institutions, are fully destructed in northern Gaza. And the problem that also we are talking about the forcing people to move from north to other areas. So the main infrastructure of higher education in Gaza was in the north, and the main also human capital, including students and professors, was in the north. Now we are talking about demographic transformations, and we cannot see the future of this war until now. So even if we want to restore education, it is not possible if we have like ceasefire today, okay? It's not possible to restore this in the same university physically because people are in different places, in different camps. Also, there is systematic distribution of humanitarian assistance, which is like engineers the new places. So you have to be here in this place because the humanitarian assistance will be here. You cannot go back to the north again. So this is complicated. So we were like after making this survey, we had like a field team in Gaza. Our colleagues work on make like interviews with the staff. Unfortunately, there is no hope for the staff. They don't feel that there is opportunity to restore their life. Many are now in Egypt. Many had opportunities outside because several universities in Gaza depended earlier on tuition fees, depended on assistantship. So now there is no resources, no salaries. So this is also one of the complicated issues. Now they try to find other opportunities outside to live. So how to also restore your human capital again after the war? This is a big challenge. Also, many students now are outside. They try to find opportunities, and some are in other universities. We had several initiatives to do our best to help in this. One of these initiatives was the visiting student initiative. The universities of the West Bank worked on a voluntary initiative to open special sessions for students from Gaza universities to help. But unfortunately, we have logistic problems, we have technical problems, the poor communication, internet, and the priorities of people. The priority of people in Gaza now is not related to higher education because there's survival, there is, the basic needs of the family. So it is challengeable. Most of the students enrolled in these initiatives were from Gazan universities outside Gaza, mainly in Egypt. So this was also a challenge. So we also I worked with the Ministry of Higher Education to make like a survey on the international initiatives related to this. There are several initiatives to host the students from Gaza. And this was not a choice for the Minister of Education of Palestine because they said this is related to the Israeli plans now, okay? We cannot lose our students, okay? If you want to help, come and help on land. This is our choice. Other initiatives, we are talking about to make some ecosystem, like now, frankly speaking, we need a temporary solution for all universities of Gaza. for all students of Gaza. We have 88,000 students of higher education, and we have like now we lost 2 years. Like the students of their first year, they didn't take anything. They don't have any academic life of universities. The students of Tawjihi, the higher school, they didn't get their opportunity, and now we have another year. So we have like 3 years lose. They lost everything. So what we were thinking about to make virtual university with quality assurance system, which helps to protect students, protect their future, and help them to benefit from this certificate outside. You know, we have the challenge of online certificates mainly in Arab region. So how to make this quality assurance, how to make this system, and this is important for the professors, academics of Gaza, because we have to bring them back. We have to invest in them again. They need support. They need their salaries. They need to, to live. This is important, and this is the discussion now. And we talk about some natural sciences to make to benefit from COVID experience, the global experience of COVID, of virtual labs in some fields. So we are thinking about this with the ministry. There is several initiatives, regional initiatives, but until now, frankly speaking, we are talking about fragmented effort. We are talking about uncertainty, and this is important because of the situation of war. We are talking about challenges, but the opportunity here that education and higher education as priority for everybody. This is the first priority with health sector. So we have to be ready for with several scenarios, and this is what we are trying to help in. And when my friend Ibrahim told me about this initiative, okay, I didn't think about this because this is our responsibility to be where we can help. Thank you, Yusuf. And any comment? I'm happy to hear from you.
Thank you very much for this comprehensive presentation about the situation of the education system in Gaza today. As we've seen and you discussed, the challenge is a huge. I mean, in the past, Palestinians dealt with different setbacks related to the education system. Israel storming universities, destroying tents at the Islamic University of Gaza when it started in the 70s, arresting academic staff, but we have never seen something like this. The scale is different today. It's a total
Yusuf,
destruction. Yes,
Yusuf, so, sorry, could I mention something related to the West Bank also in a brief? The challenge in West Bank now is much different. We have a shortage in enrolled students in universities because of financial situation, because of restrictions of movement now, and because of the different mindset of people now. They prefer to invest in the students, mainly the high school students after Tawjihi, and work. They have to work to bring some money now because the economic situation is terrible, and now there is challenge in the West Bank also related to this, but of course it's not compared to the situation of Gaza. But on the long term, we will face a real trouble in the higher education system in Palestine. Total.
thank you for highlighting this. I think this is also important. It's an Israeli war that targets Palestinians regardless of where they are, and the education system is at the heart of this war. Okay, now let's go to Dr. Krian to talk about the Irish experience. So Ireland experienced conflict and war for many years. And some people say there is some peace now, at least for the time being, in North Ireland, and there is a recovery process that started after the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. But we're very eager to hear your experience and your insight, and especially that you visited Palestine and you have an
Yeah.
understanding of the situation there.
Yes. Thank you, Yusuf, and thank you, Ibrahim, so much for sharing your research, your paper, and those insights. I think it's extraordinary work, and it is essential work. And from a personal perspective, I'm here to help try and do whatever I can to assist you and assist this organization, new organization, to do what we can to help education in Palestine and Gaza. I would like to give two examples from the Irish context, which I think are not exact, of course, for the unique situation of Gaza, what is happening in Gaza, but nonetheless maybe are informative. The first example I'm going to give goes back to the darkest and most difficult times for the Irish, I think, and the second example I give will be slightly more modern. But I think, considering what's happening in Gaza, I have to go back to the most difficult times for the Irish, and I will start this story, right. So I'm going all the way back 500 years to 1500, which was the full English conquest of Ireland. After they had succeeded in this conquest, English and Protestant settlers were granted large tracts of land in Ireland. And this displaced, of course, the native Irish, predominantly Catholic population, and created a ruling Protestant majority and a marginalized Protestant minority and a marginalized Catholic majority. Many wars followed, many rebellions of the Irish followed, the most famous perhaps being the 1641 rebellion, but they were all put down very violently. And the British realized that they were going to have to create new laws and rules to rule over the majority Catholic subjects if they were to control them in Ireland. And they developed a set of laws, and every child in Ireland in school learns about these laws in their history lessons from a very early age. So we all know them. They're called the penal laws. You can tell from the name already that they were to penalize, okay? They were negative. So the penal laws were designed to systemically marginalize the Catholic majority and consolidate the Protestant control of Ireland from England. These laws were very far-reaching, and I'm going to give a broad overview of the laws before focusing on education, just to give you a sense of how transformative they were to the Catholics in Ireland, the native population. So on land ownership, Catholics were forbidden from inheriting or purchasing land, and existing Catholics that owned land faced restrictions and taxes that meant they would have to sell to the Protestant ruling minority. On political participation, Catholics were barred from voting, could not vote. We could not hold public office. We could not be elected as MPs. We could not serve in the military or in legal professions. Our religion, the Catholic Church, faced severe restrictions. Priests were subject to very harsh penalties, including imprisonment and exile. And now to come on to education, our main topic, I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail. So it was made illegal for Catholics to teach, to be a teacher, or to access formal schooling. And of course, Catholics were completely barred from attending a university or receiving university degrees anywhere. This was completely forbidden. So you see that these laws were extremely far-reaching and extremely punitive for the Catholic majority of Ireland. And we're talking about the 1700s. And they would be in place for hundreds of years until the 1800s. So let's talk about education. What did the Irish do to maintain their education system in the face of such restrictions? So again, every school child in Ireland learns about these, but classes were held in hidden, sometimes outdoor locations, sometimes behind hedges, and they hence have the name hedge schools. So if you ask people in Ireland, do you know what a hedge school is? They'll say yes. So these hedge schools were in remote areas. Sometimes they were in hedges, but more likely they were in barns, homes, and even caves. So very informal settings that were out of the way of the British ruling administration, places they didn't know about and couldn't get to. There's a very informal structure and added to the risks and challenges, certainly, but also increased spirit of defiance and resourcefulness at the same time. And it was all about generation after generation of preserving the flame of learning and culture in the Irish tradition. So the curriculum, to the extent there was such a curriculum, and remember, we're talking about something that existed over a very long period of time, many generations, so it would have changed, but in general, the curriculum prioritized the teaching of basic literacy and numeracy, right? Read, be able to write, but also crucially focused on Irish language and Irish history, Irish culture, okay? Sometimes you could actually get Latin, Greek, and mathematics, but that was the majority was read, write, Irish language, Irish history, because again, at the same time, of course, the Irish language was being suppressed. If you wanted to do anything through the courts, if you wanted to get a job, if you wanted to have your name kind of even certified on things like birth certificates, it all had to be done in the English language, not the Irish language. And actually, funnily enough, my name is in two languages. My first name is in Irish, Kieran, and my surname is anglicized, O'Carroll, because my great-grandfather changed our name from the Irish, O'Carroll, to O'Carroll. He would have had to have done that to get it registered, no doubt. I digress slightly. So let's talk about the educators. So the teachers were often itinerant scholars or priests or just local passionate individuals. Many of them had to move around a lot from hedge school to hedge school. They traveled a lot, evading detection and evading arrest, because the penalties were very, very severe to impart this knowledge and then uphold cultural heritage. In some cases, they could be deported to penal colonies in the British Empire, such as those in Australia. And there were big rewards to informants for reporting illegal Catholic schools or teachers. And this created a kind of atmosphere of fear and suspicion as well, of course, which is very negative. So these teachers were absolutely very, very brave. And of course, as well, students, and here I think is a parallel with Gaza, the students that went faced the challenge of irregular attendance due to the difficulties of getting to the schools, the hedge schools, but also because they had to take part in agricultural work. There was they had to feed their families, and there was the threat of ever-present threat of discovery. So, of course, it wasn't like a regular school that you could attend each week. It was when the scholar was available, when the location was available, and when there was food to eat. But nonetheless, as I say, this system of hedge schools existed for a very, very long period of time, generation after generation. And what they did was they were a vital lifeline for Irish identity. In the 1800s, before the hedge school system ended, there was about probably 400,000 children in Ireland in hedge schools. So it was very, very extensive, preserving the Irish language and identity. And the spirit of wanting to maintain that identity in the face of forced Anglicization by the British Empire also was the challenge, but ensured its survival. Despite the legal barriers, the hedge schools contributed to a high literacy rate among Irish Catholics in Ireland, when that is not what the British administration wanted. So many, many hurdles, but yet they persisted until 1831, when a national school system was established and Catholics were given the right to representation in, as fair as it was at the time, men only of a certain class, but to vote and be represented in Parliament. And so we have this legacy still today of hedge schools, which are now quite romanticized in Irish literature and folklore, that they embody resistance and cultural preservation. And their legacy underscores the power of community-driven education and that power of knowledge, even in the face of oppression. So that is the first example I want to give. I'd like to give a second, if I may briefly, and that is a more modern example. And it's the role of what in Ireland is called the GAA, the Gaelic Athletics Association, in preserving Irish education and culture. So this time period we're looking at is from the late 19th century all the way to the present day. And the Gaelic Athletic Association, as you might imagine, is a sports organisation in Ireland. And it was set up to promote Irish culture and Irish sports. If you come to Ireland, the biggest sports are not soccer, okay? A lot of people play soccer, but it's not the biggest sport. We have our own sports. We have hurling, we have Gaelic football. These are the big sports that are most important and attract crowds of 70, 80,000 people to stadiums each year. And their GAA clubs, where people play these sports, crucially from an educational perspective, also established Irish language classes and cultural learning events. So when these classes started, the British were trying to outlaw as much as they could Irish cultural expression, but they couldn't get into the GAA clubs. They were too embedded in the community culture, and that allowed them to provide the opportunity to educate on the Irish language and Irish culture. And so I think this is an interesting example because it shows how sometimes when it comes to cultural resistance, it's outside the box thinking, in that people first of all set up sports clubs, embedded them into the communities, made them extremely strong, almost untouchable by our colonial rulers, and then in those communities, in those clubs, set up educational systems. Okay, and this continues to this day in Northern Ireland. To bring it up to modern times, as part of the Good Friday Agreement, which you mentioned, provision was made for the Irish language. So of course, Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, and there is not a provision in Northern Ireland that everyone learns Irish, the Irish language, but there is supposed to be, following the Good Friday Agreement. And the members of the Unionist community, traditionally Protestant, have been pushing back against the learning of Irish, the education in Irish in Northern Ireland, despite the fact they agreed to it. And so again, the GAA, the Gaelic Athletic Association, is still to this day supporting community-based learning, in that you can come to the GAA club and other cultural institutions in the north. It's not just GAA, but it's a big one, and you can learn Irish and other important pieces of Irish history. So still to this day, that community-based learning outside of a formal school setting is alive on the island of Ireland. And even at the moment, in fact, in cinemas in Ireland, there is a movie which at its heart, at its core, is about this issue and about the learning of Irish through outside formal education settings in GAA clubs, but also actually through music. More and more in the Republic and in Northern Ireland, there's bands, musicians playing more music, more songs in Irish that are targeted at a younger audience. Traditionally, songs in Irish would have been kind of more folklore, trad songs. I think I'm fair in saying targeted at older audiences, but now there's a new younger generation coming through that are singing, rapping, and more in Irish. And that is really connecting the youth to learning and being educated on Irish culture, Irish language. And so they're going to community-based learning to educate themselves proactively because they want to, and which is fantastic to see. So those are my two case studies. How they help or show learnings for Gaza, I think I'd be interested to hear from you, but I think the main parallel or main relevance today is that community-based learning, that defiance through community spirit and resistance, and also those ways of teaching people and teaching students that may not be directly formally through an education approach, as I say, through music or actually through sports, where the kind of occupation forces or the forces who don't want it to happen find it a lot harder to prevent. And so that is what I'd like to share, or I've shared with you today, and I hope it was interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's a very interesting presentation. And as you know, the Palestinian people share a lot of history, similarities, but also differences with the Irish people. due to the history of settler colonization in both countries. And Balfour,
Yeah.
who issued his infamous declaration, is known as Bloody Balfour in Ireland.
Yes.
Speaking of the ways to cope with these challenges and difficulties, and when it comes to education, I think it's very important to mention the examples of sports and music and culture. I've seen different projects, initiatives in Gaza, despite the fact that the genocide is still going on as we speak, that there are initiatives on the ground to bring kids and teach them in shelters and tents and what remains of Gaza's homes. They're small initiatives here and there. They're not enough. They're never enough.
Yeah.
They're traveling tents of teachers who teach kids. But the fact that there are people who care about education in Gaza under these conditions, when everyone is interested in their survival, speaks of the spirit of the Palestinian people and the importance of education in Palestine in general. Um, I will now go to my colleague Ibrahim, who wants to add something.
Hey, Ibrahim, Yusuf.
Ibrahim Ismairi, sorry,
Okay.
he raised his hand. I know if this was a mistake, but if you want to add something, you're muted.
Okay. Sorry, because I'm between two meetings now, but it was interesting for me the idea of informal education under restrictions. This idea have been practiced by Palestinians during the first Intifada, mainly when there was like the harsh occupation in the cities of Palestine. At that point, for example, Birzeit University was under closure for 4 years, and there was this kind of what we call popular education in Palestinian case. The popular education, we have the classrooms and the houses and the hotels and the offices. This was also in the primary and secondary education at that period. So I think we share this experience, and the problem now in Gaza is related to even the infrastructure. Even there is no house, يعني, there is no place to practice this, and this the priority? Displacement for 10 times, 11 times. So you don't have like even like stable camp to plan on short term for this. So this is one of the main challenges of this. Some initiatives in other sectors, they are working on the mobile, let's say, institutions, mobile, for example, mobile
Yes.
clinic, mobile, for example, for communication, there is a mobile infrastructure. They moves with the camps. So maybe this could be opportunity to think about. But the main thing that and the main challenge that the Israeli plan is clear. Benjamin Netanyahu still saying, I'm going to de-radicalize education system in Gaza. So they are not talking about infrastructure only. They are talking about the content. Could this be like we share this experience? Of course, we share this experience, and you have more experience in resistance and this kind of resistance. But when we talk about reconstruction and conditionality, this is one of our fears as Palestinians.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim, for your comment. And yeah, to add to my previous comment, I think even in some particular cases, there are examples of Israel targeting specific academics for their political messaging. And so it's important that when we think of rebuilding the education system in Gaza after the genocide is over, to think of rebuilding this education independent of Israel, because as Dr. Ibrahim just said, Israel is clear that they want to quote unquote de-radicalize the education system in Gaza, meaning that they want to impose curriculum on Palestinians similar to what they're doing in Jerusalem. And I think we should be aware of their plans and we should act accordingly. I don't think that the Palestinian people in Gaza will ever accept such a plan. But again, we should at least be aware and make sure that it doesn't happen. It's on the table now, and this is what Smotrich, Israel's finance minister, has been repeating again and again. And that's his plan. Brahim, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I just want to talk about what
Please
is happening.
turn off your camera because of the quality of the sound.
Okay. I just want to talk about general situation in Gaza now. Students, teachers, and academics, professors, all of them are homeless and hopeless, and this is the main problem. Another thing, there are small initiatives. These initiatives done in a non-systemic way. For example, if a teacher or academic man, professor, have has an effort in his shelter or his camp, and this work is completed. He starts 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then he stops. So I want now to see all these small initiatives, gather them together. A systemic plan to do these sessions of teaching students and guarantee that they are sustainable progress in the future. I think the main goal for the academic initiative is to give hope, because now in Gaza, especially in Gaza, the students and professors and academics they are losing the hope of life, of learning. And as you said, Dr. Yusuf, that teachers and professors don't get says, and they are living in shelters and tents and camps, and they cannot afford the daily life for their families. But our duty is to give them hope. Secondly, to bring together all these small initiatives in one big initiative. Thirdly, to bring from inside Gaza, inside Palestine, from West Bank, and also from the outsider world, anyone from the outside the Gaza, Palestine, want to support this initiative, it will be great, because if you want to make promotions and even teach students just 2 subjects, for example, Arabic language and mathematics. This need money. They need some teachers to be inside this process of teaching. So there are a lot of challenges. We are trying to bring solutions. We are trying to adapt to the current situation, because as you said, and Dr. Ibrahim, we are now the second and we are going to the third year. So this is horrible, and the war maybe will extend to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, and we must be aware of this. We cannot just wait. We must make solutions now, have another alternatives
Ibrahim, if you allow me to quickly summarize what you said, because
Yeah, okay.
the quality of the sound wasn't as good. So
Okay.
Ibrahim says that the problem now is that a lot of teachers, students, the majority of them are displaced and hopeless. They're scattered across the Gaza Strip. So first of all, we should talk about displacement, and that these students and teachers should go back to what used to be their homes for any process to start. And he said that there are many initiatives, small initiatives, and it's important to combine them together and to have a sort of coordination on the ground so that we do not repeat and double the same efforts. He's also talking about the need to combine efforts from inside and outside Gaza to make this initiative a success. And there was a final point I'm trying to remember about. Remind me, Ibrahim. So combining these efforts and I cannot remember the fourth point. But yeah, so these are the main points Ibrahim discussed. Thank you for your contribution, and we understand the situation around you, and the fact that you were able to join today is really important from Gaza. I want to also thank Dr. Kiarian for joining us today. Rana Abu Shammala, she's on transportation. She cannot make an intervention today, but she's very much interested in the subject and in the project. Thank you all for joining us today and for this very important discussion. And I hope that it will be the start of